Hello, and thank you for joining me for Boss 3. In this video, I will be breaking down his rotation and showing you how my raid has the tank handle mechanics. I'll break this boss down into 5 main parts, those being beginning rotation, diving rotation, mech phase, mid rotation, and final phase. I'll be clipping parts to slow down the rotation and show them to you, while explaining them and then playing the clip at normal speed so that you see it live. Please note, this rotation explanation is after the boss has been activated. If you attempt to follow this guide without activating him first, you will see some slight differences in his rotation at the beginning. To start, we have the boss's beginning rotation, which is a blockable swipe, followed up by a shifting pizza. As the tank, it is important to know that the pizza is based on your position. This means that the safe zones will shift if you're out of place and could throw the party off. When you see the boss lock onto you, shortly after the swipe, begin to walk to your left, circling the boss, stepping into the first zone. Depending on your movement speed, you may need to stop and wait for the pizza to go off before moving into the second safe zone, a little further to the left. I try to line the pizza up starting at 12 using the 4 lines in the middle to orient it. When I get to 3, I sit on the right side of the line for the first wave of pizza, and shift to the left side for the second. After pizza, get back to 12, and depending on your class, you can either DPS or prepare to Hong Moon block. The boss will do his bombardment and target the 2 furthest people. Right after the bombardment has gone off, the party should receive a Hong Moon block for the next attack. The attack here can either be 1, the flame shield, which will be directed at the tank and will daze you if you hit into it, followed by a flamethrower that covers 180 degrees in the same direction the shield is facing, or 2, 3 tail swipes opposite the tank. It's important to see which comes first, as if it's shield first, you need to get to the party before tail swipes goes off, and if it's tail swipes first, you need to stay at 12 to bait the shield until after the swipes has ended. Here we have the shield first, so I'll flip to the party at 6 to bait the swipes at 12. After the boss does both of these moves, he'll follow up with a laser directed at the tank, so try to be at 12 and flip to 6 after he's locked onto you. After the tank laser, the boss will then do 3 tail pokes opposite your position, and follow up with a spin that should be stealthed. I try to get back to 12 between the 3rd poke and the spin in order to be in position for the beginning of his next rotation. He will do 1 more swipe, go into a pizza, and afterwards he'll begin his diving rotation. Diving rotation begins when the boss creates a lava pool at his feet and dives under the map. He will always look in the direction of where he is going and can appear anywhere between the center of the room and the inner edge of the large, ornate octagon around the room. Your goal as tank is to get to the boss as quickly as you can and position yourself opposite the party, preferably with your back to the corner. After each dive, the boss will do a laser at the farthest person from the boss, followed by a flame shield, again targeted at the tank. The boss will pick up his normal rotation from where he left off before the dive. In this case, it would have been bombardment, followed up by the tail swipes and flame shield. Again, those 2 moves are RNG for the order they occur in, followed by a tank laser, and finally the 3 tail poke into a spin. After that, he will dive, and after the initial laser and flame shield, he will do a swipe at the tank and start with pizza. This will continue on until the party can get the boss down to 90%, which is where the mech phase begins. As my raid has a bit of DPS, we can get the boss down to 90% before he begins his rotation after diving. This being the case, you may have to refer to the other TT Boss 3 video I have linked in the description below. Mech phase begins with the boss diving back underground and reappearing in the center of the room. He will then proceed to mark the furthest people from him with embers. The number of embers varies depending on which phase you are in. At 90%, there are only 2 embers. At 65, there are 3 embers. And at 35, there are 4 embers. The embers stand at a set distance to determine their order, and here we have a static rotation assigned to the clock positions. Group 1 will begin at 1 o'clock, Group 2 will begin at 4 o'clock, Group 3 will begin at 10 o'clock, and Group 4 will begin at 7 o'clock. Embers will be marked as previously mentioned, and as the ember is activated, the player will be lifted into the air and needs the group members to step into the circle under the ember to share the damage and prevent the ember's death. After a successful share, the group members need to break the chains by getting more than 8 meters away from the ember. Flame 1 will touch the ember as soon as we begin to move, and Flame 2 will touch Flame 1 as the group gets to its destination. That destination will be a clockwise shift to the next group, so Group 1 that started at 1 will end at 4. Group 2 that started at 4 will end at 7. Group 3 that started at 10 will end at 1, and Group 4 that started at 7 will end at 10. After the group has successfully managed to get to their destination, they have to maintain the links between all 3 members to keep the buff active and block the missiles assigned to them. The best way to do this is to have Flame 1 stand in the diamond about 12 meters from the center, with the Ember Holder and Flame 2 standing on either side of them blocking the missiles as they come. Please note at this point there cannot be more than 8 meters between Flame 1 and the Ember, nor with Flame 1 and Flame 2. After the missiles have been blocked, groups will hold their position until the assigned Scorch comes and takes the buff from the group, breaking the links and getting under the boss to deal mech damage. Now as the tank, you want to get to 12 as soon as possible, without getting too close to the boss. If anyone besides the Scorch gets too close, the boss may grab them instead of the Scorch and will heal instead of taking damage. After the last Scorch has been eaten, the boss will proceed to do a 4-slam room-wide AoE. It is highly suggested that this attack be sheathed and that players wait out the 4 slams. Immediately following the slams, the boss will begin his mid-rotation phase. Mid-rotation phase is pretty much the same as the beginning rotation phase, with one important variation. After the boss does pizza, he will still do bombardment, but he will follow up with a laser aimed at the farthest player from him before doing the tail swipes or flame shield. This changes when the Hong Moon block will be used, after the laser, and give the tank a few seconds before he resumes his rotation. Now the boss will still do the tail swipes flame shield combo followed by a tank laser, and will only do 1 swipe before diving under and returning to his diving rotation. The diving rotation will have a laser aimed at the farthest player after bombardment from this point on, but will still follow his normal rotation. After reaching 65%, the boss will end diving rotation and again bounce back into the middle of the room to mark embers. This time he'll mark 3 embers, and again members will do their rolls. After the 3rd Scorch gets eaten, he will do his 4 slams and restart his mid-rotation. You go through mid-rotation, another diving rotation depending on DPS, and at 35% return to mech phase, this time with 4 embers. Everyone will again do their rolls, and after the 4th Scorch, the boss will do his slams and move into the final phase.
you like to stay out late? I heard you had a couple boyfriends. I heard they didn't treat you right. I heard you're hated by your girlfriends, 'cause all the guys want you tonight. Yeah, they say she's too hot, they say she's too cold. Where she came from, nobody really knows. They say she looks young, but say she acts old. From everything I've heard, she gets out of control. And all the boys say she was sent from the heavens, but I'm not too sure that this girl is a blessing. She's got the devil's eyes and they'll cut you like a weapon. She's stuck in my mind like a bad obsession. Got bad intentions. She got a body like a coffin. She likes to keep the party going. These rumors got me feeling lonely. I want that body, baby, show me. She's got a body like a coffin. She likes to keep the party going. These rumors got
The final phase is non-tank dependent. This means that attacks will not be based on your position. Instead, the boss will target the 3 farthest people for lasers, and 2 of them will also get bombardment. These lasers should be at 12, 3, and 6 directly over the lines. After the 3rd laser, the boss will drop missiles in 2 waves, and it is our job to block the missiles in the lane we are assigned. Rinse and repeat until the boss is dead, and voila, you have cleared boss 3, the hardest boss in the game.